Settle into a comfortable position and allow your breathing to slow just a little. Tonight, we're going to follow water as it moves gently across the surface of our planet. Not rushing, not forcing its way forward. Just flowing, as rivers have done for millions of years. Rivers are among the oldest storytellers on Earth. Long before cities, before borders, before written language, rivers traced calm paths across continents. They shaped valleys, fed forests, and quietly taught humans where life could grow. In this peaceful journey, we'll explore soothing river facts, gentle hydrology, and the calm science of moving water, all designed to help your mind relax as your body rests. If you enjoy learning in this slow, calming way, you're warmly invited to like and subscribe, only if it feels right. And if you'd like, you can leave a comment sharing your country, your city, and the time you're listening. Many people enjoy knowing they're drifting off alongside others around the world. Now, let's begin at the very start, where rivers are born. A river does not begin as a river. It begins quietly, often as snow resting on a mountain peak, or as rain soaking gently into soil. In hydrology, this early stage is called the headwaters. Headwaters are the small streams, springs, and trickles that eventually come together to form a larger flow. Some rivers have hundreds, even thousands, of tiny beginnings scattered across hillsides and highlands. Snowmelt is one of the most important sources of river water on Earth. In regions like the Himalayas, the Andes, and the Rocky Mountains, snow slowly accumulates during winter. When temperatures rise, meltwater feeds rivers over weeks or months. This slow release helps stabilize river flow, providing consistent water for ecosystems, agriculture, and cities downstream. It's one reason mountain regions are sometimes called the planet's natural water towers. Rain-fed rivers behave differently. In tropical regions, rivers respond to seasonal rainfall patterns, swelling during wet months and shrinking during dry ones. The Amazon River Basin, for example, experiences dramatic seasonal changes. Forests near the river are adapted to these rhythms, with plants and animals evolving to survive periods of flooding that can last for months. As water begins to move downhill, gravity gently guides it. Rivers always follow the path of least resistance, winding through softer rock and soil rather than cutting straight lines. This is why rivers curve. Over time, these curves become more pronounced, forming what are called meanders. Meanders are not mistakes or inefficiencies. They are signs of a mature river, calmly adjusting its course over time. As rivers flow, they carry sediment. This sediment can be tiny grains of sand or larger pieces of rock. The movement of sediment is one of the most important processes in river geography. When water flows quickly, it can carry heavier material. When it slows down, sediment settles. This simple principle shapes floodplains, deltas, and fertile soils around the world. Floodplains are flat areas alongside rivers that are occasionally flooded. While floods can be destructive to modern infrastructure, they have historically been essential for agriculture. When rivers overflow, they deposit nutrient-rich sediment onto nearby land. Ancient civilizations understood this well. The Nile River, for example, flooded predictably each year, renewing farmland and supporting one of the world's earliest complex societies. Rivers are deeply connected to human history, culture, and economy. Nearly every major civilization developed near a reliable river system. The Tigris and Euphrates supported Mesopotamia. The Indus sustained ancient cities in South Asia. The Yellow River shaped early Chinese civilization. Rivers offered fresh water, transportation routes, fertile land, and natural trade corridors. Even today, rivers remain vital to global economies. They support agriculture, generate hydroelectric power, and enable transportation of goods. Some of the world's busiest shipping routes are inland waterways, where large vessels travel slowly but efficiently, reducing fuel costs and emissions compared to road transport. In this way, rivers quietly support modern luxury, technology, and global trade networks without demanding attention. Hydrology, the science of water movement, studies how rivers interact with landscapes, climate, and living systems. One key concept is a river's watershed, also known as a drainage basin. A watershed includes all the land where rain and snow eventually flow into a particular river. Every drop of water within a watershed is connected, even if it falls far from the main channel. Watersheds remind us that rivers are not isolated lines on a map. They are living systems connected to forests, wetlands, cities, and coastlines. When land use changes upstream, rivers downstream respond. Deforestation can increase erosion. Urban development can alter flow patterns. Gentle hydrology helps scientists understand these relationships and guide sustainable water management. As rivers travel farther from their source, they usually grow wider and slower. This is the middle course of a river, where tributaries join and flow becomes more stable. Tributaries are smaller rivers or streams that feed into a larger one. The Mississippi River, for example, is formed by countless tributaries stretching across much of North America. Each tributary brings its own water, sediment, and story. At this point, water slows dramatically, depositing sediment and often forming a delta. Deltas are some of the most fertile and densely populated regions on Earth. The Nile Delta, the Mekong Delta, and the Ganges-Brahmaputra Delta support millions of people and rich biodiversity. Rivers also shape natural beauty and tourism. From luxury river cruises in Europe to serene canoe routes through wilderness landscapes, rivers invite slow travel. They encourage observation rather than haste. Many people find that simply watching a river flow can reduce stress and quiet the mind. There is something deeply calming about water that moves steadily without urgency. Scientists believe this calming effect may be rooted in human evolution. Early humans depended on water for survival. Being near a river meant access to food, safety, and connection. Even today, the sound of flowing water is often used in sleep videos, meditation apps, and wellness spaces because it signals stability and continuity. As you listen, you may notice your thoughts beginning to drift, much like water following a gentle bend in the land. There is no need to remember every detail. These facts are meant to pass by softly, leaving only a sense of quiet curiosity. As the river continues its quiet journey, time becomes one of its closest companions. Rivers are patient. They do not rush their work, yet over thousands and millions of years, they reshape entire landscapes. What may look gentle and unchanging today is often the result of immense geological effort carried out slowly, grain by grain. One of the most remarkable abilities of rivers is erosion. Erosion is the process by which moving water wears away rock and soil. Even clear-looking water carries tiny particles that act like fine sandpaper, smoothing and shaping the land beneath. In hydrology and geography, this slow erosion explains valleys, canyons, and rolling plains across the world. In mountainous regions, young rivers tend to move quickly. Their steep slopes give them energy, and they carve narrow, V-shaped valleys. This transition from sharp mountain streams to broad lowland rivers can be observed on every continent, from the Andes to the Alps. One of the most famous examples of river erosion is the Grand Canyon in the United States. The Colorado River has been carving through layers of rock for millions of years. While wind, weather, and tectonic forces also played roles, the steady movement of water was essential. The canyon stands today as a quiet monument to persistence rather than force. Rivers also transport sediment far from its original source. Rocks eroded from mountains may travel hundreds or even thousands of kilometers before settling. Along the way, these particles become smaller and smoother. This journey explains why riverstones downstream are often rounded and polished, while those near headwaters are sharp and angular. Deposition is the partner process to erosion. When a river slows down, it drops the sediment it can no longer carry. This happens on the inside of river bends, on floodplains, and near river mouths. Over long periods, deposition builds fertile soils that support forests, wetlands, and agriculture. Floodplains are especially important landscapes created by rivers. Though the word flood can sound alarming, natural flooding has historically been a beneficial process. Seasonal floods spread thin layers of nutrient-rich sediment across surrounding land. This natural fertilization supported early farming and remains important for ecosystems today. In many parts of the world, modern engineering has altered river flooding patterns. Dams and levees protect cities and farmland, but they also interrupt sediment flow. Hydrologists study these changes carefully, balancing economic benefits like hydroelectric power and irrigation with ecological health and long-term sustainability. Rivers also create terraces along their banks. River terraces are step-like features that mark previous river levels. They form when a river cuts down into its own floodplain, often due to changes in climate, land uplift, or water volume. These terraces act as natural records, helping scientists reconstruct past environments. Climate plays a major role in how rivers behave. During ice ages, glaciers grind rock into fine sediment that rivers later carried downstream. During warmer periods, increased rainfall can expand river networks. By studying ancient river deposits, geologists gain insight into Earth's climatic history, sometimes stretching back millions of years. Rivers do not only shape land, they also influence where plants and animals live. Riparian zones, the areas along riverbanks, are among the most biologically diverse habitats on Earth. These zones provide water, shade, and nutrient-rich soil, supporting birds, insects, mammals, and aquatic life. Many cultures have developed spiritual and cultural connections to rivers. In India, the Ganges River is considered sacred. In ancient Egypt, the Nile was seen as a divine gift. These beliefs reflect a deep understanding of rivers as life-giving forces. Even today, rivers remain central to cultural identity, festivals, and local traditions around the world. Economically, rivers have long supported trade and travel. Before modern roads and railways, rivers were the easiest way to move goods. Timber, grain, stone, and luxury items once floated slowly downstream to markets and ports. Some of today's major cities, including London, Paris, and Shanghai, grew around rivers that connected them to wider trade networks. Tourism continues this relationship. River cruises, scenic river walks, and protected river parks attract visitors seeking calm, nature, and history. The slow pace of river travel aligns naturally with relaxation and mindful observation, making rivers popular settings for wellness retreats and ecotourism. Rivers also influence political boundaries and cooperation. Many rivers cross national borders, requiring shared management. The Danube flows through multiple European countries. The Mekong supports millions across Southeast Asia. International agreements aim to ensure fair water use, flood control, and environmental protection. Despite their calm appearance, rivers are dynamic systems. Their channels migrate over time, sometimes shifting dramatically. This natural movement can surprise communities, reminding us that rivers are living features rather than fixed lines. Understanding this dynamism is a core goal of modern hydrology and river management. As you imagine a river shaping land over centuries, you may notice how gently these changes occur. No sudden urgency, just steady motion, guided by gravity and time. The same water that flows past today will be replaced by new water tomorrow, yet the river remains. As the gentle flow continues, we arrive at the world's great rivers, each one shaped by its climate, landscape, and history. Though rivers follow similar physical laws, no two are truly the same. Each develops a distinct rhythm, a quiet personality formed by geography, rainfall, and time. The Nile River, often called the longest river in the world, flows calmly through northeastern Africa. For thousands of years, its predictable seasonal flooding sustained agriculture and civilization. Unlike fast mountain rivers, the Nile moves slowly across flat terrain, allowing fine sediment to settle gently along its banks. This slow pace helped create fertile land in an otherwise arid region, supporting one of humanity's earliest complex societies. Moving westward in imagination, the Amazon River reveals a very different character. It carries more water than any other river on Earth, draining a basin so vast it influences regional and even global climate. The Amazon's flow is powerful, yet its movement through dense rainforest feels hushed and expansive. During the rainy season, the river overflows into surrounding forests, creating flooded ecosystems where fish swim among tree trunks and roots. The Amazon River system demonstrates how rivers interact with biodiversity. Thousands of fish species depend on its seasonal rhythms. Many trees rely on floodwaters to spread seeds. Scientists studying ecology often describe the Amazon as a living circulatory system, quietly sustaining one of the planet's richest ecosystems. In Asia, the Yangtze River flows through China, connecting mountains, plains, and megacities. It is both ancient and modern, serving as a historical lifeline and a center of contemporary economic activity. The Yangtze supports agriculture, industry, transportation, and hydroelectric power. Its steady presence illustrates how rivers can adapt alongside human development when carefully managed. The Mississippi River in North America carries a slower, meandering energy. It winds through the heart of the continent, gathering water from numerous tributaries. Over centuries, it has shifted its course repeatedly, building wide floodplains and wetlands. These wetlands act as natural buffers, absorbing floods and supporting wildlife. In South America, beyond the Amazon, rivers like the Parana and Orinoco shape vast grasslands and deltas. Their sediment-rich waters nourish farmland and wetlands that support both traditional livelihoods and modern agriculture. River deltas, formed where rivers meet the sea, are among the most productive environments on Earth. Europe's rivers often feel intimate and historical. The Rhine flows past castles, vineyards, and towns that grew gradually along its banks. The Danube links diverse cultures, languages, and landscapes as it moves toward the Black Sea. These rivers remind us that waterways have long served as connectors, not just of land, but of people and ideas. In colder regions, rivers behave differently. The Lena River in Siberia flows through permafrost landscapes, freezing solid for months each year. When spring arrives, melting ice creates dramatic but brief floods. These seasonal patterns influence wildlife migrations and traditional human activities adapted to extreme climates. Australia's rivers tell yet another story. Many are intermittent, flowing strongly only after rains. The Murray-Darling system supports agriculture in a largely dry continent. These rivers teach us that not all waterways flow continuously. Some sleep quietly until rain awakens them again. Africa's Congo River moves with deep, steady power through tropical rainforest. It is one of the deepest rivers in the world, shaped by ancient geological forces. Its constant flow supports dense forests and diverse wildlife while remaining difficult to navigate due to rapids and cataracts. Rivers also differ in color and clarity. Glacial rivers often appear milky due to fine rock particles, known as rock flour. Tropical rivers may appear dark from organic matter. Desert rivers can carry reddish sediment after storms. These colors reflect geology and climate, offering clues about a river's origin and journey. Sound is another quiet characteristic. Some rivers whisper softly over smooth stones. Others murmur steadily through reeds and wetlands. In narrow canyons, rivers echo, creating rhythmic patterns that many find soothing. These natural sounds have inspired music, poetry, and relaxation practices for centuries. Culturally, many rivers are given human traits. They are described as patient, generous, or wise. This language reflects how deeply rivers are woven into human imagination. Even modern city dwellers often find comfort walking beside water, drawn instinctively to its movement. Economically, rivers continue to support travel, trade, and tourism. River cruises offer slow journeys through landscapes, emphasizing rest rather than speed. Fishing communities rely on seasonal river patterns. Hydropower stations harness energy while attempting to respect ecological balance. Scientifically, rivers serve as natural laboratories by measuring flow rates, sediment loads, and water chemistry. These studies help guide sustainable water management worldwide. As you picture these great rivers, notice how each flows according to its environment. None rush unnecessarily. None remain still. They adapt, curve, and continue. As the mind continues to drift, we arrive quietly at the beginnings of rivers. Every river, no matter how wide or powerful it becomes, starts in a small and often unremarkable place. These beginnings are rarely dramatic. Instead, they are subtle, patient, and almost invisible, reminding us that even the greatest natural systems begin gently. Many rivers begin as springs. A spring forms when groundwater, stored slowly beneath the surface, finds a natural opening and flows outward. Rain and snow seep into the ground, moving through layers of soil and rock, until pressure and geology guide the water back to the surface. Springs can appear as a slow trickle or a quiet stream emerging from a hillside. Spring-fed rivers often maintain a steady flow throughout the year because underground temperatures remain relatively constant. Spring water stays cool in summer and warmer in winter. This stability creates ideal conditions for aquatic life. Fish, insects, and plants thrive in these calm, predictable environments, forming ecosystems that depend on consistent water supply. Other rivers begin high in mountains, born from melting snow and glaciers. In these regions, winter snow accumulates quietly, layer upon layer. When warmer seasons arrive, snow melts gradually, feeding small streams that merge and grow. These snow-fed rivers often swell in spring and early summer, reflecting the rhythm of seasonal change. Glacier-fed rivers move with a different pace. Glaciers store water for decades or even centuries, releasing it slowly as ice melts. The water often carries fine mineral particles, giving the river a cloudy, pale appearance. These rivers flow steadily, even during dry periods, offering reliable water in regions where rainfall is unpredictable. Some river sources remain hidden. Underground rivers flow through caves and porous rock, especially in limestone landscapes known as karst terrain. These hidden waterways can travel long distances before resurfacing, sometimes emerging far from where the water first entered the ground. Springs in such regions may suddenly release large volumes of water, surprising those unfamiliar with the underground system. In forests, river beginnings can be so subtle they are easily overlooked. A damp patch of moss, a shaded hollow, or a cluster of wet leaves may mark the origin of a stream. These small sources often feed complex networks of creeks and rivulets, slowly collecting into a recognizable river channel. Rainfall also plays a role. In some climates, rivers form primarily from rain rather than snow or springs. Tropical rivers, for example, respond quickly to rainfall, swelling and shrinking with changing weather patterns. In arid regions, rivers may flow only after heavy rains, appearing briefly before retreating into dry riverbeds. The concept of a river source can be surprisingly complex. Some rivers have multiple headwaters, with several streams competing to be considered the true beginning. Geographers often debate which tributary is longest or carries the most water, affecting how a river's length is measured. Historically, people have been drawn to river sources. Many cultures view them as sacred places, symbolizing purity and renewal. Pilgrimages to river headwaters are common in different parts of the world. These quiet locations invite reflection far from the busyness of downstream settlements. Protecting river sources is vital for water quality. Pollution near a river's beginning can travel far downstream, affecting ecosystems and communities. Conservation efforts often focus on preserving headwaters through forest protection, responsible land use, and careful water management. From an ecological perspective, headwaters play an outsized role. They regulate water temperature, filter pollutants, and provide habitat for specialized species. Small streams contribute significantly to the overall health of river systems, even though they are often ignored in favor of larger waterways. In mountainous regions, headwaters carve valleys, slowly shaping landscapes over time. In flatter terrain, they meander gently, forming wetlands and marshes that absorb excess water and reduce flooding. These early stages of a river's life set the tone for everything that follows. Listening closely, the sound of a river's beginning is different from that of a large river. It may be a faint drip, a soft trickle, or a whispering flow through grass and stones. These sounds are among the quietest in nature, often blending seamlessly into the surrounding environment. As you imagine these gentle beginnings, consider how growth in nature often occurs quietly. Strength builds over time, guided by patience and consistency. As the gentle journey continues, the river begins to change. No longer a simple stream or a quiet spring, it slowly gathers strength. Growth in river systems does not happen through force or speed, but through connection. Small streams meet other streams, tributaries merge, and water learns how to travel together. A tributary is a smaller river or stream that flows into a larger one. The word itself comes from an idea of contribution, and that meaning fits perfectly. Each tributary adds water, minerals, sediments, and life to the main river. Alone, a tributary may seem modest, but together they create something enduring and powerful. As rivers collect tributaries, their shape evolves. Channels widen, currents become steadier, and the river gains the ability to shape land more visibly. Valleys deepen, banks become more defined, and floodplains begin to form. This process happens slowly, often over thousands or millions of years, reminding us that most meaningful change in nature is gradual. River valleys are sculpted through erosion. Flowing water gently loosens soil and rock, carrying tiny particles downstream. Over time, this steady movement carves channels into landscapes. In mountainous regions, rivers cut narrow, V-shaped valleys. In flatter areas, they create wide open floodplains that stretch quietly toward the horizon. The shape of a river's valley reflects its age. Young rivers tend to move quickly, flowing straight and fast as they cut downward into land. Mature rivers slow slightly, beginning to curve and wander. Old rivers move gently across broad plains, meandering gracefully as if unhurried by time. Meanders are one of the most calming features of rivers. Instead of flowing straight, the water curves from side to side, forming looping bends. On the outside of each bend, the river erodes land. On the inside, it deposits sediment. This creates a natural rhythm of erosion and creation, destruction and renewal, happening quietly with every passing year. Over long periods, meanders can grow so large that they form oxbow lakes. When a river cuts through a narrow bend, it may abandon its old loop, leaving behind a crescent-shaped body of still water. These lakes become peaceful habitats for birds, fish, and plants, often calmer than the main river itself. As rivers grow, they also slow. The farther water travels from its source, the gentler the slope becomes. Slower water carries finer sediments, which settle along banks and floodplains. These sediments enrich soils, making river valleys among the most fertile places on Earth. This fertility explains why civilizations have long settled near rivers. Ancient societies developed along waterways that provided fresh water, food, transportation, and fertile land. Rivers quietly supported agriculture, trade, and cultural exchange, shaping human history without demanding attention. Rivers are natural connectors. They link mountains to oceans, forests to plains, and people to one another. Goods once traveled by river long before roads or railways existed. Even today, many major economies rely on rivers for shipping, irrigation, and energy production. As tributaries join, rivers develop complex internal systems. Different currents move at different speeds. Deeper channels carry water more quickly, while shallow areas slow the flow. This variety creates habitat for diverse species, each adapted to specific conditions within the river. Fish migrate along rivers, using them as pathways between feeding and breeding grounds. Some species travel hundreds or even thousands of kilometers, guided by instinct and seasonal changes. These migrations depend on uninterrupted river systems, highlighting the importance of maintaining natural connections. Vegetation along riverbanks, known as riparian zones, plays a crucial role in river health. Trees and plants stabilize banks, reduce erosion, and provide shade that keeps water cool. Leaves and organic matter falling into rivers feed insects and microorganisms, forming the base of aquatic food webs. As rivers grow larger, they influence local climates. Large waterways, moderate temperatures, increase humidity, and shape weather patterns. Cities near rivers often experience milder conditions compared to surrounding areas, benefiting from the river's quiet presence. Floodplains develop alongside growing rivers. During periods of high water, rivers spread beyond their banks, depositing nutrient-rich sediments across nearby land. While floods can be destructive, they are also essential for maintaining fertile soils and healthy ecosystems when allowed to occur naturally. Modern river management sometimes attempts to control these natural processes, and levees and channels are built to protect communities and generate energy. While useful, these structures can alter natural flow patterns, affecting ecosystems and sediment movement. Understanding how rivers grow helps inform better water management practices. By respecting natural processes, societies can balance development with conservation, ensuring rivers continue to provide benefits for generations to come. There is something deeply soothing about watching two streams merge. The moment of joining is quiet, almost unnoticed, yet transformative. Water adapts instantly, finding a new path forward together. As you imagine these merging waters, let your thoughts follow the gentle curves of a growing river. As we continue drifting alongside the river, its role becomes even more apparent. Rivers are not just travelers across the land, they are artists. With patience measured in centuries, they sculpt plains, carve cliffs, and gently rearrange the surface of continents. This artistry happens quietly, without urgency, making it perfect to contemplate as the mind relaxes. One of the most important ways rivers shape landscapes is through erosion. Every drop of water carries energy. Even slow-moving rivers have the power to lift grains of sand, particles of clay, and fragments of rock. Over time, this steady movement reshapes entire regions, smoothing rough terrain and softening sharp edges. In upland areas, rivers cut downward, forming deep valleys and canyons. The famous examples, like the Grand Canyon in the United States, remind us of the immense timescales involved. Carved primarily by the Colorado River over millions of years, the canyon shows how persistence can outweigh force. The river did not rush. It simply kept flowing. As rivers leave higher ground and enter flatter regions, their behavior changes. The energy once spent cutting downward now spreads outward. Rivers begin to widen their channels and create broad floodplains. These flat lands are shaped by repeated flooding, where water gently deposits layers of sediment like pages in a long geological book. Floodplains are among the most productive ecosystems on Earth. Rich soils support agriculture. Wetlands host diverse wildlife, and seasonal changes bring constant renewal. Many of the world's most densely populated regions are located on river floodplains, drawn by fertile land and reliable water. Rivers also shape cliffs and riverbanks in subtle ways. On the outer edge of a bend, water flows faster, eroding rock and soil. On the inner edge, water slows and deposits sediment. This continuous reshaping creates terraces, sandbars, and gentle slopes that shift gradually over time. In some regions, rivers cut through layers of rock with varying hardness. Softer layers erode faster, while harder layers resist. This contrast can create waterfalls and rapids, where water tumbles and flows with a bit more energy. Over long periods, waterfalls retreat upstream, reshaping landscapes step by step. Waterfalls are often seen as dramatic features, but their formation is slow and methodical. Each drop contributes to erosion at the base, gradually undercutting rock. Eventually, sections collapse and the waterfall moves. This quiet cycle repeats over thousands of years. Beyond visible landforms, rivers also shape underground landscapes. Water seeps into cracks and pores, dissolving minerals and enlarging channels beneath the surface. In limestone regions, rivers contribute to the formation of caves, sinkholes, and underground streams that remain hidden from view. Rivers influence coastlines as well. As they approach the sea, rivers slow further, dropping sediments they carried from far inland. Over time, these sediments build deltas, fan-shaped landforms that extend into oceans and seas. Deltas are dynamic environments where land and water constantly negotiate boundaries. The Nile Delta, for example, has supported human civilization for thousands of years. Sediments deposited by annual floods enriched the soil, making agriculture possible in an otherwise arid region. Even today, deltas remain vital centers of food production, culture, and economic activity. Rivers also shape ecosystems by creating corridors of life. Animals follow rivers as migration routes. Plants spread along banks. In dry regions, rivers form ribbons of green across otherwise barren landscapes, supporting biodiversity far beyond what rainfall alone could sustain. Wetlands formed by rivers act as natural filters. They trap pollutants, store excess water, and reduce flood impacts downstream. These areas quietly protect human communities while supporting birds, fish, and countless microorganisms. Seasonal changes add another layer to the river's influence. Snowmelt, monsoon rains, and dry seasons all affect river flow. These rhythms guide planting cycles, animal behavior, and even cultural traditions tied to water availability. In some parts of the world, rivers freeze in winter, becoming still and silent beneath ice. This pause is temporary. Beneath the surface, water continues to move slowly, preparing for spring's release. The freeze-thaw cycle shapes banks and channels, contributing to erosion and sediment transport. Rivers also interact with wind and climate. Moisture from rivers contributes to local humidity and precipitation patterns. Large river systems can influence weather far beyond their banks, subtly shaping regional climates over time. Human history is inseparable from rivers. Trade routes followed waterways long before roads existed. Cities grew along rivers because they offered transportation, resources, and connection. Even today, rivers remain vital arteries of commerce, tourism, and cultural exchange. Modern technology has expanded how societies interact with rivers. Hydroelectric dams generate renewable energy, supporting sustainable economies. Riverfront developments create spaces for recreation, luxury travel, and tourism, blending natural beauty with urban life. Yet, rivers remind us of balance. When natural flows are altered too much, landscapes respond. Erosion patterns change, habitats shift, and downstream ecosystems feel the effects. Understanding rivers as landscape artists encourages careful stewardship rather than control. As you imagine a river shaping plains and valleys, allow the idea of slow creation to settle into your thoughts. Nothing rushed, nothing forced. Just steady movement, guided by gravity and time. As the river's long journey continues, its pace becomes calmer, its movement softer. After traveling across mountains, plains, and cities, every river eventually approaches a meeting place where fresh water blends with salt. This quiet transition zone, where rivers meet the sea, is among the most peaceful and productive environments on Earth. Estuaries form where river water flows into oceans or seas, mixing with tides and coastal currents. The water here is neither fully fresh nor fully salty. Instead, it shifts gently with each tide, creating a unique environment that supports an incredible diversity of life. Fish, birds, shellfish, and plants all thrive in these softly changing waters. The mixing of fresh and salt water creates layers, with lighter fresh water often floating above denser salt water. This layering allows nutrients to circulate slowly, supporting food chains that extend far beyond the estuary itself. Many marine species rely on estuaries where young fish can grow safely before venturing into open oceans. Deltas form when rivers slow so much that they can no longer carry their sediments. Sand, silt, and clay settle at the river's mouth, gradually building new land outward into the sea. Over centuries, these deposits create branching channels, wetlands, and islands shaped by both river flow and ocean tides. Some of the world's most important agricultural regions sit on deltas. The Mississippi Delta, the Mekong Delta, and the Ganges-Brahmaputra Delta support millions of people through farming, fishing, and trade. These landscapes remind us how rivers quietly connect inland regions to global economies and cultures. Channels shift, islands grow or shrink, and coastlines evolve with storms and sea level changes. This constant motion creates habitats that are rich but delicate, requiring balance between natural processes and human activity. Estuaries also act as natural buffers against storms. Wetlands and marshes absorb wave energy, reducing the impact of storms on inland communities. These ecosystems protect coastal cities while quietly filtering pollutants and improving water quality. Rivers deliver nutrients from far inland to coastal waters. These nutrients support plankton growth, which forms the base of marine food webs. In this way, rivers connect forests, farms, and cities directly to ocean life, forming a single, interconnected system. As rivers flow near the sea, their waters often spread wide, reflecting the sky like mirrors. The surface becomes calm, inviting moments of stillness. It's easy to imagine ancient travelers reaching this point and feeling a sense of completion, knowing the journey has reached its natural end. Some rivers form wide estuaries where tides push salt water far upstream. The Thames in England and the Hudson River in the United States are shaped by tides many kilometers inland. These tidal rivers have influenced trade, culture, and urban development for centuries. At river mouths, fresh water meets powerful ocean currents. This meeting influences coastal ecosystems, sediment distribution, and even navigation routes. Ports often develop near river mouths, where ships can access inland waterways while remaining connected to global trade networks. Fishing communities have long relied on these zones of abundance. Estuaries provide predictable resources, shaping local economies, cuisine, and cultural traditions passed down through generations. As climate changes, river mouths become especially important areas to study. Rising sea levels, altered rainfall patterns, and changing river flows all affect estuaries and deltas. Scientists monitor these regions closely, using advanced technology to understand how Earth's systems adapt. Despite these challenges, river mouths remain places of quiet beauty. Birds glide low over water. Reeds sway gently with the tide. Sunlight dances on ripples where fresh and salt water merge. In literature and history, rivers meeting the sea often symbolize completion, reflection, and renewal. The water does not disappear. It simply changes form, joining a larger cycle that continues endlessly. As you imagine this meeting place, let your thoughts slow. Picture water spreading wide, becoming calm and open. There is no urgency here, only a sense of arrival. As the river continues its gentle presence, it becomes clear that it is far more than moving water. A river is a living system, a quiet corridor of life that stretches across landscapes, connecting habitats and sustaining countless species along its path. From the smallest mountain streams to the widest lowland rivers, freshwater ecosystems support an extraordinary variety of life. Fish glide beneath the surface, insects skim across ripples, plants root along banks, and birds follow the water's course as a guide through forests and plains. Rivers provide different habitats depending on their speed and shape. Fast-flowing upper reaches are often cool and oxygen-rich, ideal for species like trout and salmon. Slower middle sections allow aquatic plants to grow, creating shelter for insects, amphibians, and fish. Floodplains form when rivers overflow their banks during seasonal floods. These areas are among the most fertile ecosystems on Earth. Floodwaters spread nutrients across the land, supporting grasses, trees, and crops that feed both wildlife and human communities. Many animals rely on rivers as migration routes. Fish, such as salmon, travel thousands of kilometers from oceans to freshwater streams to reproduce, guided by subtle chemical signals in the water. Birds follow river valleys during seasonal migrations, using the water as a reliable landmark and source of food. Rivers also connect isolated habitats. A continuous ribbon of water allows species to move, adapt, and survive in changing environments. This connectivity is essential for maintaining genetic diversity, which strengthens ecosystems over time. Aquatic insects play a crucial role in river health. Mayflies, stoneflies, and caddisflies spend much of their lives underwater before emerging as adults. Their presence indicates clean, well-oxygenated water, making them natural indicators used by scientists to assess river conditions. Plants along riverbanks stabilize soil and prevent erosion. Roots hold the land together, while leaves shade the water, keeping temperatures cool for sensitive species. These riparian zones act as protective buffers between land and water. Beavers, often called ecosystem engineers, dramatically shape river landscapes. By building dams, they create wetlands that store water, reduce floods, and increase biodiversity. These wetlands support birds, fish, and plants, showing how one species can influence an entire system. Rivers support microscopic life as well. Phytoplankton and algae form the base of aquatic food webs, converting sunlight into energy that sustains larger organisms. Though invisible to the eye, these tiny producers are essential to the balance of freshwater ecosystems. Seasonal changes affect river life in gentle rhythms. Snowmelt in spring brings higher flows and cooler temperatures. Summer often brings warmth and growth. Autumn carries fallen leaves that become food for aquatic organisms. Winter slows everything down, offering a period of rest beneath ice and cold currents. Human cultures have long observed and respected these rhythms. Traditional fishing practices often align with spawning seasons, allowing fish populations to recover. Indigenous knowledge systems around the world emphasize living in harmony with river cycles. Modern science uses advanced technology to study rivers, from underwater sensors to satellite imagery. These tools help researchers understand water quality, flow patterns, and ecosystem health, informing conservation and sustainable management. Rivers also support economic activities rooted in nature. sustainable fishing, ecotourism, and river-based recreation provide livelihoods while encouraging environmental stewardship. Calm river cruises, kayaking, and wildlife watching attract travelers seeking peaceful connections with nature. Despite their resilience, river ecosystems are sensitive. Pollution, dams, and habitat loss can disrupt life cycles. Protecting rivers ensures clean water, food, security, and ecological balance for future generations. Restoration projects around the world are helping rivers recover, removing outdated dams, replanting riverbanks, and improving water quality allow ecosystems to heal. Over time, fish return, plants regrow, and the river resumes its quiet work. As you imagine this living corridor, picture water flowing gently, carrying life in every drop. There is a sense of continuity here, of balance maintained through constant motion. As the river flows onward, it quietly carries us back through time to moments when human history first gathered along its banks, long before roads, cities, or written language. Rivers offered something rare and precious: reliable water, fertile soil, and a natural pathway through the land. Some of the world's earliest civilizations emerged beside rivers: the Nile, the Tigris and Euphrates, the Indus, and the Yellow River. Each supported societies that learned to work with seasonal floods rather than fear them. These rivers transformed dry landscapes into productive agricultural regions. The Nile's predictable flooding deposited rich silt along its banks, allowing ancient Egypt to flourish for thousands of years. Crops grew in abundance, supporting cities, artisans, scholars, and monumental architecture that still inspires awe today. The river became central not only to survival, but to culture, religion, and identity. In Mesopotamia, between the Tigris and Euphrates, irrigation systems were developed to manage water flow. These innovations allowed farmers to grow surplus food, which freed people to specialize in crafts, trade, governance, and education. Writing systems emerged here, partly to record agricultural and economic activity. The Indus River supported well-planned cities like Mohenjo-daro, with advanced drainage systems and standardized building layouts. This reflects a deep understanding of water management and urban design, showing how rivers encouraged early technological development. In China, the Yellow River played a dual role as both provider and challenge. Its heavy sediment load caused frequent floods, earning it the name China's Sorrow. Yet, these floods also enriched farmland, supporting one of the world's longest continuous civilizations. Rivers naturally became trade routes. Boats could carry heavy goods more easily than land transport, linking distant communities. Timber, grain, stone, metals, and textiles moved along waterways, fostering economic growth and cultural exchange. River ports developed into major cities. Paris grew along the Seine, London along the Thames, and Baghdad along the Tigris. These locations offered access to trade, defense, and resources, making rivers central to urban expansion and global commerce. Cultural ideas traveled with goods. Along river routes, languages mixed, religions spread, and artistic styles evolved. Rivers became conduits of knowledge as much as water, quietly shaping shared human heritage. Many ancient myths and spiritual beliefs center on rivers. They were seen as sacred entities, sources of life, and pathways between worlds. Rituals, festivals, and pilgrimages often followed riverbanks, reinforcing their importance beyond practical use. Even today, rivers continue to influence modern economies. Hydropower provides renewable energy. Irrigated agriculture feeds billions. River tourism supports local economies through cruises, cultural experiences, and luxury travel along scenic waterways. Education and science have also grown alongside rivers. Universities, research centers, and observatories often developed in river cities, benefiting from trade, stability, and access to diverse ideas. Rivers quietly nurtured learning and innovation. However, as civilizations expanded, rivers were sometimes reshaped too aggressively. Dams, canals, and levees brought benefits, but also altered natural systems. Modern river management now seeks balance, combining engineering with ecological awareness. Archaeologists continue to uncover ancient settlements buried beneath river sediments. Each discovery reveals how deeply human stories are woven into river landscapes. Even abandoned river cities remind us of water's power to give and take. As you imagine torchlight reflecting on ancient riverbanks, there's a sense of continuity. The same water that flows today once mirrored the stars for early farmers, traders, and storytellers. As the current carries us forward, we begin to notice that every river has its own character. Some move slowly and patiently across wide plains. Others rush through steep valleys, carving stone with quiet determination. Together, these famous rivers shape landscapes, cultures, and imaginations across the world. The Amazon River is often described as a giant among rivers. It carries more water than any other river on Earth, releasing so much fresh water into the Atlantic Ocean that it can be detected far out at sea. The Amazon basin supports the largest tropical rainforest on the planet, home to extraordinary biodiversity and vital to global climate balance. Despite its immense size, much of the Amazon remains peaceful and remote. Riverboats drift past dense jungle, while indigenous communities maintain traditions connected closely to the river's seasonal rhythms. The Amazon is less a single river and more a living network of waterways. The Mississippi River flows through the heart of North America, connecting farmland, forests, and cities. Stretching from Minnesota to the Gulf of Mexico, it has long served as a commercial artery. Barges carrying grain, coal, and goods still travel its waters, supporting regional economies and global trade. Historically, the Mississippi shaped migration, music, and culture. Blues, jazz, and folk traditions grew along its banks. Stories, songs, and literature continue to reflect the river's deep presence in American life. In Africa, the Congo River winds through dense rainforest and dramatic terrain. It is one of the deepest rivers in the world, with powerful currents that make navigation challenging. These currents also support immense hydroelectric potential, making the river central to energy development in the region. The Congo Basin shelters unique ecosystems and ancient forests. Scientists study the river to understand biodiversity, climate systems, and the long-term interactions between water and life. The Danube River flows across Europe, passing through more countries than any other river. From Germany's Black Forest to the Black Sea, it links cultures, languages, and histories. Along its banks stand medieval towns, modern capitals, vineyards, and nature reserves. The Danube has long supported tourism and cultural exchange. River cruises offer a luxury travel experience that combines history, scenery, and relaxed exploration. The river's gentle pace invites reflection and connection. In Asia, the Mekong River supports millions of people across multiple countries. Seasonal floods nourish rice fields, sustain fisheries, and shape rural livelihoods. Floating markets, stilt villages, and riverside temples reflect deep cultural adaptation to water-based life. The Mekong's biodiversity rivals that of the Amazon, with giant freshwater fish and unique plant species. Conservation efforts aim to balance development with the river's ecological health. The Volga River, Europe's longest river, flows entirely within Russia. It has played a central role in transportation, industry, and national identity. Reservoirs along the Volga support energy production and urban water needs, while its waters continue to shape regional economies. In Australia, the Murray-Darling River system supports agriculture in an otherwise dry continent. Careful water management is essential here, illustrating how rivers can be lifelines in challenging environments. Each river tells a story shaped by geology, climate, and human interaction. Some rivers wander gently, forming wetlands and deltas. Others descend quickly, forming rapids and waterfalls. Together, they reveal the planet's diversity. As you imagine these rivers flowing across continents, there's a calming sense of unity. Different names, different landscapes, yet the same movement of water connecting mountains to oceans. As we continue drifting downstream, it becomes clear that rivers are not just passive features on a map. They are active sculptors of the Earth's surface, quietly shaping landscapes over thousands and even millions of years. Their work is slow, steady, and remarkably precise, making rivers one of nature's most patient architects. Rivers begin their shaping work high in mountains or uplands, where gravity gives water the energy to move downhill. At these higher elevations, rivers are often narrow and fast. Their waters cut into rock and soil, deepening channels and carving steep-sided valleys. This process, known as erosion, is one of the most powerful forces in physical geography. Over time, repeated erosion creates dramatic features such as V-shaped valleys, gorges, and canyons. The Grand Canyon in the United States is one of the most famous examples. Carved primarily by the Colorado River over millions of years, it reveals layers of Earth's history like pages in an open book. Each rock layer tells a story of ancient seas, deserts, and climates long gone. As rivers move away from mountains and into flatter terrain, their behavior changes. The water slows, carrying sediment rather than cutting deeply into bedrock. This sediment includes sand, silt, clay, and small stones, all gathered from upstream erosion. The river now begins to shape the land in gentler but equally important ways. Meanders form when rivers curve back and forth across wide floodplains. On the inner edge, slower water deposits sediment. Over time, these curves grow more pronounced, creating looping bends that seem to wander across the landscape. Eventually, some meanders become so curved that the river cuts a new, straighter path during a flood. The abandoned loop becomes an oxbow lake, a quiet crescent of water separated from the main channel. These lakes provide important habitats for birds, fish, and plant life, enriching local ecosystems. Floodplains themselves are products of long-term river activity. During seasonal floods, rivers spill over their banks and deposit fine sediment across surrounding land. This sediment is rich in nutrients, making floodplains some of the most fertile agricultural areas in the world. Civilizations along the Nile, Tigris, Euphrates, Indus, and Yellow rivers all depended on these natural cycles. At the end of their journey, rivers meet larger bodies of water, often forming deltas. A delta develops when a river slows as it enters a lake or ocean, dropping its sediment load. Over time, this sediment builds outward, creating flat, branching landscapes shaped like fans or triangles. The Nile Delta, one of the most famous in history, supported ancient Egypt's agriculture and population for thousands of years. Today, deltas remain economic centers, supporting farming, fishing, trade, and tourism. They also face modern challenges such as sea level rise and reduced sediment flow due to dams. Rivers can also change course dramatically over time. Earthquakes, landslides, volcanic eruptions, and shifts in climate can all redirect water. These changes reshape ecosystems and human settlements, reminding us that rivers are dynamic rather than fixed features. In colder regions, rivers interact with ice and snow. Seasonal freezing affects flow patterns, while glacial meltwater contributes sediment and fresh water. These processes leave behind braided channels and gravel plains that reveal past climate conditions. From carving canyons to building deltas, rivers continuously balance erosion and deposition. This balance creates the landscapes we recognize: rolling plains, fertile valleys, wetlands, and coastal estuaries. Understanding how rivers shape land is essential in modern planning and education. Engineers, environmental scientists, and policymakers study river behavior to manage floods, protect ecosystems, and support sustainable development. As you imagine rivers slowly reshaping the world, there is something deeply calming in their persistence. Without urgency or noise, they transform mountains into sand and carry continents, grain by grain, toward the sea. As the river continues its calm journey, it becomes more than a force shaping land. It becomes a lifeline. From its quiet headwaters to its wide mouth, a river supports an astonishing range of life, connecting ecosystems, cultures, and economies in ways that feel almost invisible when viewed from afar. Rivers are among the most biologically productive environments on Earth. Freshwater makes up only a small fraction of the planet's water. Yet rivers and lakes support a disproportionately large share of global biodiversity. Fish, amphibians, insects, plants, birds, and mammals all rely on flowing water for survival. At the smallest scale, microscopic organisms drift within river currents. Algae and plankton form the base of aquatic food webs, converting sunlight and nutrients into energy. These tiny life forms feed insects and fish, which in turn support birds, reptiles, and mammals along riverbanks. Fish species have evolved remarkable adaptations to river life. Some, like salmon, migrate thousands of kilometers from ocean to freshwater to reproduce, navigating currents with precision guided by Earth's magnetic field and chemical cues in the water. Others, such as catfish and carp, thrive in slower-moving sections where sediment and nutrients accumulate. Riverbanks, known as riparian zones, are among the most ecologically rich areas on land. Trees and vegetation stabilize soil, reduce erosion, and provide shade that keeps water cool. This shade is essential for many fish species, particularly trout and salmon, which depend on cooler temperatures. Bird life flourishes along rivers. Herons, kingfishers, eagles, and storks hunt fish and small animals in shallow waters. Migratory birds use rivers as natural navigation routes, resting and feeding along their banks during long seasonal journeys. Large mammals also depend on rivers. Elephants, deer, hippos, and big cats gather near water sources, especially in dry regions. In many landscapes, rivers determine where life can exist at all, creating green corridors through otherwise harsh environments. For humans, rivers have always been central to survival and development. Early societies settled near rivers for access to fresh water, fertile soil, and transportation. Agriculture flourished along river valleys, allowing communities to grow food reliably and support larger populations. The Nile River is often called the birthplace of ancient Egyptian civilization. Its predictable floods enriched the soil, enabling farming in an otherwise arid landscape. Similar stories unfolded along the Tigris and Euphrates in Mesopotamia, the Indus in South Asia, and the Yellow River in China. Rivers became highways of trade long before modern roads. Goods, ideas, languages, and technologies traveled along waterways. Even today, major rivers like the Rhine, Mississippi, and Yangtze remain vital trade routes supporting global economies and logistics networks. Cities grew where rivers crossed important routes or offered safe harbors. Paris, London, Cairo, Bangkok, and New York all developed in close relationship with rivers. These waterways supported commerce, industry, and cultural exchange while shaping the identity of each city. Rivers also influence culture, spirituality, and art. Many societies view rivers as sacred. The Ganges in India is worshipped as a living goddess, believed to purify those who bathe in its waters. In other cultures, rivers appear in myths as boundaries between worlds or symbols of renewal. Modern technology has changed how humans interact with rivers, but dependence remains. Dams generate hydroelectric power, providing renewable energy for millions of people. Irrigation systems channel river water to farms, supporting global food production. At the same time, these interventions come with consequences. Dams alter natural flow patterns, affecting fish migration and sediment movement. Pollution from cities and industries threatens water quality, reminding us that rivers reflect human behavior as much as they shape it. Efforts to restore rivers have grown worldwide. Projects remove outdated dams, replant riparian vegetation, and improve water quality. These efforts aim to balance human needs with ecological health, recognizing rivers as living systems rather than simple resources. In an era of climate change, rivers are becoming even more important. Changes in rainfall patterns affect river flow, increasing the risk of floods and droughts. Understanding river systems helps communities adapt and plan for a more resilient future. As you rest with these thoughts, imagine a river at dusk. The water moves steadily, carrying reflections of trees and sky. Life stirs quietly along its banks, connected by the same flowing current. As the river widens in our imagination, it begins to resemble the great waterways that have shaped entire continents. These rivers are not just lines on a map. They are long, patient storytellers, carrying memories of landscapes, wildlife, and human history across thousands of kilometers. One of the most famous rivers in the world is the Nile. Flowing northward through northeastern Africa, it stretches over 6,000 kilometers, making it one of the longest rivers on Earth for thousands of years. Its annual floods deposited rich silt along its banks, allowing ancient civilizations to flourish in the desert. Even today, millions of people depend on the Nile for drinking water, agriculture, and transportation. In South America, the Amazon River moves with unmatched volume. It carries more water than any other river on the planet, releasing vast amounts into the Atlantic Ocean each second. Its basin supports the largest rainforest on Earth, a region that plays a crucial role in regulating the global climate and supporting extraordinary biodiversity. The Amazon's tributaries form a dense network, like veins carrying life through the continent. Pink river dolphins glide through its waters, while towering trees along its banks host countless species of birds, insects, and mammals. Many communities still rely on the river as their primary means of travel, trade, and connection. Across Asia, the Yangtze River flows from the Tibetan Plateau to the East China Sea. It is the longest river in Asia and the central artery for China's economy and culture. For centuries, it has supported rice farming, inland trade, and bustling cities. The Yangtze is also home to rare species, such as the Chinese sturgeon, and once supported the now functionally extinct Yangtze River dolphin. Its story reflects both the power of rivers to sustain life and the responsibility humans have to protect them. The Mississippi River winds through the heart of North America, draining a vast portion of the continent. It has served as a major transportation route since long before European settlement. First used by indigenous peoples and later by traders and settlers. Its slow, looping course has inspired music, literature, and a sense of place deeply tied to American culture. In Europe, the Danube River flows through more countries than any other river in the world. From Germany's Black Forest to the Black Sea, it connects diverse cultures, languages, and landscapes. Castles, vineyards, and historic cities line its banks, reflecting centuries of shared history shaped by flowing water. The Mekong River in Southeast Asia supports one of the world's most productive freshwater fisheries. Millions of people rely on it for food and income. Seasonal floods replenish soils and sustain rice paddies, maintaining a delicate balance between water and land. In Africa, the Congo River flows through dense rainforest, its depths still largely unexplored. It is the second largest river by discharge and plays a critical role in regional climate patterns. Its powerful currents generate potential for renewable energy, while its basin shelters unique wildlife. Rivers also define borders and identities. The Rio Grande marks much of the boundary between the United States and Mexico. These rivers remind us that water often connects more than it divides. Some rivers remain remote and quiet. The Lena River in Siberia flows through vast, frozen landscapes, carrying ice and sediment to the Arctic Ocean. Its seasonal freeze and thaw reflect Earth's changing climate in slow, visible rhythms. Australia's Murray-Darling River system supports agriculture in an otherwise dry continent. Careful management is essential to balance farming needs with ecological health, showing how rivers demand thoughtful stewardship. Each of these great rivers shares common traits: patience, persistence, and adaptability. They respond to mountains, plains, and climate, shaping themselves to the land while shaping it in return. As you drift deeper into relaxation, imagine these rivers flowing simultaneously around the world. Though separated by distance, they move under the same gravity, guided by the same natural laws. Rivers are never truly still. Even when they appear calm on the surface, they are constantly adjusting, reshaping themselves grain by grain. Over years, decades, and centuries, rivers slowly wander across their floodplains, carving new paths while leaving behind traces of where they once flowed. One of the most fascinating ways rivers change is through a process called meandering. As water flows, it naturally erodes the outer edges of bends while depositing sediment along the inner curves. This gradual motion causes the river to snake back and forth across the landscape. From above, these curves resemble long, looping ribbons, calm and deliberate in their movement. Over time, some bends grow so wide that the river eventually cuts through a narrow neck of land, creating a new, straighter channel. The abandoned loop becomes an oxbow lake, a quiet crescent of water left behind as a memory of the river's former course. These lakes often become rich habitats for birds, fish, and plant life. Floodplains are another result of a river's patient behavior. During periods of heavy rain or snowmelt, rivers spill beyond their banks, spreading water and fine sediment across surrounding land. When the waters retreat, they leave behind nutri soil that supports agriculture and natural ecosystems alike. This natural flooding cycle has sustained human societies for thousands of years. Ancient farming along the Nile, Tigris, and Euphrates depended on predictable seasonal floods. Today, modern engineering often seeks to control rivers, but many regions are rediscovering the benefits of allowing rivers some freedom to flood safely. Deltas form where rivers meet the sea. As flowing water slows, it drops sediment, gradually building land outward into oceans or lakes. The Mississippi Delta, the Nile Delta, and the Mekong Delta are among the most fertile regions on Earth, supporting dense populations and vibrant economies. However, deltas are also fragile. Reduced sediment flow from dams, rising sea levels, and coastal erosion threaten their stability. Scientists now study how to protect these landscapes while balancing human needs and natural processes. Climate plays a major role in shaping rivers. In colder regions, glaciers feed rivers with meltwater, influencing seasonal flow patterns. In tropical regions, monsoons bring dramatic rises and falls in water levels. As climate patterns shift, rivers respond, sometimes gently, sometimes abruptly. Some rivers shrink as rainfall decreases or glaciers retreat. Others experience more intense floods as storms grow stronger. These changes affect drinking water, supplies, agriculture, transportation, and ecosystems, reminding us how closely human life is tied to flowing water. Despite these challenges, rivers remain resilient. Wetland restoration, improved water management, and international cooperation help rivers continue their essential work. In many places, communities are learning to listen to rivers again, observing their rhythms rather than forcing rigid control. Rivers also play a quiet role in renewable energy. Hydropower facilities harness flowing water to generate electricity, supporting modern economies while reducing reliance on fossil fuels. When carefully planned, these systems can coexist with ecosystems and communities. From mountain streams to wide estuaries, rivers carry stories forward. Each drop of water has traveled a unique path shaped by terrain, climate, and time. Together, they form a global network that connects continents and cultures. As you relax, imagine a river flowing gently toward the horizon. It does not rush. It does not resist obstacles. It simply adapts, moving forward with steady purpose. As we come to the end of our gentle journey, it feels natural to slow even further, just as a river does when it reaches open land. Rivers teach us not through urgency, but through patience. Their wisdom is written in curves, floodplains, deltas, and quiet pools where water pauses before continuing onward. Every river begins with something small: a melting snowflake, a spring seeping from stone, a drop of rain settling into soil. Alone, each beginning seems insignificant, yet together they grow into powerful waterways that shape continents. This reminds us that great systems often start quietly, without spectacle. Rivers do not choose the fastest route. They choose the path that works. When blocked, they do not stop. They spread, bend, erode, and adapt. This natural problem-solving has inspired engineers, urban planners, and environmental scientists seeking sustainable ways to design cities, transportation, and water systems. Across the world, rivers serve as borders, but also as bridges. They divide nations on maps, yet connect people through trade, shared ecosystems, and mutual dependence. The Danube flows through or touches more countries than any other river in the world, linking cultures across Central and Eastern Europe. Many modern cities still owe their location to ancient rivers. Paris grew along the Seine. London formed around the Thames. Cairo rose beside the Nile. These waterways provided drinking water, food, transportation, and protection long before roads or railways existed. Even today, rivers support global commerce. Cargo ships move grain, minerals, fuel, and manufactured goods along major waterways. River transport remains one of the most energy-efficient ways to move heavy materials, quietly supporting modern economies behind the scenes. Rivers also shape language and art. Words like source, current, and tributary appear in daily speech. Artists, poets, and musicians have long drawn inspiration from flowing water as a symbol of time, memory, and change. In ecology, rivers act as lifelines. They allow species to migrate, seeds to disperse, and nutrients to circulate. A healthy river supports forests, wetlands, grasslands, and coastal ecosystems far beyond its banks. Some rivers disappear underground for parts of their journey, flowing through limestone caves before resurfacing. Others vanish into deserts, evaporating before reaching the sea. These unusual paths remind us that not all stories end the same way. Despite centuries of modification, many rivers continue to recover when given space and care. Dam removals, pollution, cleanup, and habitat restoration have allowed fish populations to return and water quality to improve in places once considered lost. Scientists now view rivers as living systems rather than simple channels. This perspective has transformed how we manage water, emphasizing balance, resilience, and long-term thinking. As climate awareness grows, rivers are becoming indicators of planetary health. Their changing flows reflect shifts in rainfall, temperature, and ice melt. By listening to rivers, we learn about the earth itself. And yet, for all their importance, rivers ask very little of us. They flow whether we notice or not. They carry water, sediment, and life forward with quiet consistency. As you rest, imagine standing beside a wide river at dusk. The surface reflects fading light. The current moves steadily, unconcerned with time. You don't need to follow it. You don't need to understand every bend. Let your thoughts drift as gently as water downstream. Thank you for sharing this peaceful journey. Sleep well and let the river carry the day away.